Before we dive into today's episode, I want to extend a special invitation to all of our listeners. If you're considering adoption, navigating the home study process, or simply curious about your options, RG Adoption Consulting is here to guide you. Visit our website at www.rgadoptionconsulting.com/contact to schedule a complimentary chat. Our multi-agency approach is a strategic way to accelerate your adoption process without putting all your eggs in one basket. This strategy prevents you from feeling stuck with one agency, especially after a significant financial commitment. Why not consider a multi-agency approach with lower initial fees? We believe it makes a lot more sense. Plus, the support and education you receive through our services are aspects you might not expect you'll need until you're deep into the process. Reach out to us at rgadoptionconsulting.com/contact. We're here to support your adoption journey every step of the way. Your dream is to become a mom. My dream is to help you get there. I'm Rebecca Gruenspan, a single mom through domestic adoption and an adoption consultant for over a decade. I'll be your guide, along with other adoption professionals and members of the adoption constellation, walking you step by step down this beautiful and complex path of adopting your baby. When I was going through the adoption process, I had no idea what I was doing, what I needed to know, or more importantly, who to trust. Well, after helping hundreds and hundreds of families grow through the beauty and complexity of adoption, I've learned more than a thing or two, and let me tell you, it's not always rainbows and butterflies. This isn't just another podcast sharing adoption stories, but it's for you if you're genuinely committed to diving in with an open heart, eager to learn everything there is to know about adopting a baby so that you can show up for yourself and your child in the best way possible. This podcast is for you if you're ready to put your newfound knowledge into action. Adoption isn't for the weak of heart, and it certainly isn't done when your baby gets placed in your arms. If that's what you think, I'm afraid you're living in La La Land. My promise to you is to keep it real if you promise to keep digging. We'll acknowledge the hard, and we'll also celebrate the joy that is adoption. You ready? Let's do this. Hello, happy week. I hope it's been a good one. I am trying to get out the door to find my way to Chicago, where my son's bus will be arriving from camp fairly soon. And when I say soon, I mean tomorrow, Friday. And I miss him. I'm excited. I'm excited to see him. So that's what I am getting ready to do. And what about you? I just got off the phone with a family who had a very long match and had a great relationship with expectant mom. Expectant mom delivered. They spent a lot of time with her in the hospital, and then the baby was born and they were in the NICU. Then they went home, and the next morning called to see, what she might need and if they can come over. And she said, don't come, and the baby has passed away. And they learned a lot about themselves in that moment. And I think, I don't know, maybe the agency they were working with learned something about themselves or not. I don't know. I think it was the first time they had ever experienced something like that. And it was a lot. They were grieving. They didn't know what to do. They didn't think she wanted them there because they basically asked, can we come? And she said no. And so in hindsight, what they learned about themselves is when they're grieving and when they're dealing with trauma, their immediate reaction is flight. And so they immediately booked a plane and left, but they were the ones who told the agency. And I guess they thought everything was fine until like literally a week or so after. And the agency was saying everything that the birth mom had to go through alone. And they took it insinuating that they weren't there. And this is a couple who did all the right things leading up, like had a great relationship, doing anything they could for the expectant mom. And then they were made to feel a lot of shame for not doing the right thing after mom lost the baby. And they also lost a baby and they were grieving. And, you know, it's easy to be quick to judge and hear one side of a story and feel like, oh, maybe somebody should have done something different. But the fact of the matter is you don't know what you're going to do until you're faced with something. And sometimes you'll even surprise yourself. I knew enough about this family to give them space and not try to get them on the phone because, you know, that's how they process. That's how they've always processed with me working with them throughout this whole journey. And I read that right. They did need time. And they even asked the agency, we need, you know, a couple days just to be alone before we talk. So unfortunately, they didn't feel like, you know, once again, the hopeful parent kind of felt like, well, what about us and what about what we're going through? And there are a lot of times in the journey where hopeful adoptive parents feel that way. And it's legit. They shouldn't be made to feel like they don't have a right and they're the evil, you know, person in this whole journey, because they are not. So hopefully they'll continue on. And we have experienced a number, like 2 or 3 babies who have passed in the past month, which is weird. We haven't experienced that, I mean, hardly ever. So that was a really unfortunate situation. And now they're trying to, you know, as is to be expected, they don't think they could go through another long match again. And what if it ended in a fall through again? They think it would ruin them. Now, a couple things. Number one, once you experience a fall through, we always recommend you take a pretty short match next time. And if you stick with the same agency, which unfortunately they're not, because it didn't end so well afterwards, it's unfortunate, you're usually put to the top of the list and made a priority for like a baby born situation or a really quick situation. It's harder to get that when you're working with an agency and you didn't have a fall through, but it's not to say it's impossible. These things happen all the time. And if they're a good fit, they're a good fit. A lot of people think if it happens again, we don't think we could get up again. And I'm here to tell you, you can get up again. It may feel like you can't, but you are so much stronger than you think you are. You are so much stronger than you think you are, and you can get up again. It's a decision. Right? What are the repercussions of you getting up again? And what are the repercussions of you not getting up again? So think about that. I have seen the strength in people. And actually, another conversation I had this week was with a single woman who has had 3 fall-throughs. I have never experienced that. It's awful. And she too, and this is a single woman, wasn't sure if she could get up for a 4th time. And she prayed, and she's somebody who looks for signs. And she has decided to get up again. And we talked about how many people her getting up again for the 4th time. I'm not even going to tell you how much money she's lost. How many people that's going to affect that she is getting up again, and how many people it would affect if she didn't get up again. So you're stronger than you think. Lean on the people who are there to support you with what you need support around, and keep the hope alive. Dig deep. Take the time you need to grieve. That's important too. And I would recommend highly, very highly, that you pair up with an adoption competent therapist and talk about the loss. Whether it was a mom changing her mind or the loss of a baby who died. Work through that grief with somebody who understands it. Don't try to do everything by yourself because you're private. Reach out to people who get it and can truly help you through the process. An adoption competent therapist is good for so many reasons. And I don't want you to ever think that we're good. We don't need to work with anyone. We've got this. We've done this before. We know what to do. We know there's highs and lows. And yet, there will be things that trigger you all throughout your journey, whether that's as a hopeful parent or as an adoptive parent. Trust me, mom of a 13-year-old, what? How am I a parent to a teenage boy? I have no idea. He was just born yesterday. There are lots of things that come up. And oh, do I wish I had somebody on speed dial to say, okay, I need to schedule a session, please. This is coming up. Is this an adoption thing, or am I just nuts? And if you're nuts, they'll work through that with you too. Before we go on, we're going to take a quick break, but don't go away. We still have so much to talk about. Hey there, Adoption Roadmap fam. Are you ready to take the next step on your journey to parenthood? If so, head over to our website and take our quiz. It's called, Are You Ready to Adopt? It's not just about testing your knowledge. It's about making sure you're emotionally and practically prepared for the beautiful, complex journey of adoption. Let's make your dream of parenthood a reality. Go to rgadoptionconsulting.com and take the Are You Ready to Adopt quiz today. That's rgadoptionconsulting.com. The quiz is free, and it will let you know where you are in the process and if you're ready to jump into your adoption journey. Do you need an attorney to review an adoption match? Well, no. Is it a good idea? It could be. Who are you? Are you somebody who wants peace of mind that an adoption attorney has looked over all the details of an adoption situation that you just said yes to, and that you're about to send, $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 over to an agency for, and to look over that agency contract to make sure, all is kosher? Do you need to? No, you don't need to. And I'd venture to say most people don't, and they just use an attorney for finalization. And if you are somebody that it would just give you peace of mind, and you just want to triple, quadruple, quintuple check, is that a word, quintuple? I think so. Then it's worth the $300 or less that you would pay for an attorney to review your situation and just tell you, is there anything we need to be concerned about? Is there anything regarding the law that we need to know about, that we want to make sure our agency that we're working with knows about? Is there anything in this contract that puts us at any sort of risk or that isn't quite feeling right? You want to know that before you send in all the money. So it might be a good idea to hire an attorney to review your contract, and don't just hire like a contract attorney. I mean, you can, and it could do some good, but hire somebody who knows adoption. Again, adoption competent therapist, adoption attorney. Adoption has its own set of rules, and every state has its own set of rules. And sometimes you're dealing with, in fact, go listen to the podcast episode that I recently did with Diana Schimmel. She's an attorney in Pennsylvania and New Jersey. There are a lot of situations that happen when you're dealing with 3 state laws. The laws of the state that you live in, the laws of the state the birth mom lives in, and the laws of the state that the agency is in. What happens then? Go listen to that episode. We talk a lot about it, but those are some reasons you might want an attorney to review your match and to review the contract. Do you have to? The answer is no. Will it give you peace of mind? If the answer is yes, then it's worth the $300. I don't know, maybe it's $500 or less. I'm not sure. At that point, when you're paying for $40,000, $50,000, $60,000, $80,000, whatever, what's another $500? If it might save you some heartache later on. What's the best way to find a home study agency? Do you know? What would you say? What would you do if you were going to adopt and you needed to find a home study agency? I would say, if you're not working with a consultant, if you are, ask your consultant. They probably have some recommendations in your state. But if you're not, maybe you're in a Facebook group, an adoption Facebook group. Ask in there. I live here. Who else lives here, and who did you use for your home study? It doesn't quite matter who you use for your home study if you're just using them for your home study. If you're using them for the whole process, it's a little bit more complicated than this. But otherwise, get some recommendations from people who have also gotten a home study in your area. It has to be in your state. You can Google home study providers and look at, if they have reviews. And then call and ask questions. What questions are you going to ask? Well, I would ask, what is your process? How long does it usually take? Do we have to come to your office or not? Because if you do, and they're 2 hours away, maybe not such a good idea. What is the cost? What does that cost include? A lot of people don't know to ask this question, but part of the home study is post-adoption visits. Again, every state has different laws as to how many you need before finalization. So are you paying for each individual visit separately, or is that included in the cost? Also mileage. But also, you will likely need your home study, your finished home study, sent to at least one agency if you're just working with one agency or attorney, and if you're using multiple, to multiple places. Do they charge for that? So you want to know what the cost is. Those are the basic questions. And then just choose. I would call 3 places, 2 or 3 places. 3 is a good number. That seems to be our magic number for everything, 3. Call a few places, ask those questions, and then pick and get started. Well, only get started if you know what you're doing once your home study is complete. If you still have no idea, you don't know if you're doing multiple agencies, one agencies, an attorney, if you're using consultant to help you, what have you, I would not start your home study until you know what the rest of your process is going to look like, because you also have other steps to complete before you can really apply to agencies and go live. So you want to get that timing right. But as far as choosing a home study agency, those are the questions that I recommend asking. You want to get it done quickly. You want to get it done from a reputable place who is licensed to do home studies. Sometimes that's an agency. Sometimes that's an individual. So you want to be quick, reasonably priced, and with somebody who's reputable. Other than that, you just need to get it done. Working with an agency for placement, totally different. Okay? So don't get the two confused. And that's for another episode. I'm going to end there. If you have any questions about the adoption process, what it's like to work with a consultant, don't hesitate to DM me at RG Adoption Consulting, RG Adoption. I am happy to answer it, and I'm happy to answer it on an episode of This Week in Adoption. And I'd love to hear from you. Also, if you have been listening to the Adoption Roadmap podcast and you think it's been helpful at all, or you know somebody it would be helpful to, I have a favor to ask of you. It would really mean a lot to me if you share it, if you give it a 5-star rating, if you think it's worth it, and if you would please review it. I would really appreciate it. Hey, Lauren. Thank you for saying hi. I miss you too, and I love seeing your children on social. It brings joy to me and a smile on my face. So I would really appreciate that. Our goal is to continue to educate and really hold people's hands who are trying to navigate their way through the adoption process, through the journey of adopting, and then right after. So if you have a child that's a little older, the podcast probably isn't for you, but otherwise, go take a listen, the Adoption Roadmap podcast. Thank you guys for tuning in. See you next week. Bye-bye. Well, I hope you enjoyed that episode of the Adoption Roadmap podcast. If you did, I have a few favors to ask of you. First, please hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. And while you're at it, I'd love to hear your takeaways. Please write a review and let me know what you liked. And if you have a question or a suggestion on what you'd like to hear, I'd love to hear that too. Please shoot me an email at support@rgadoptionconsulting.com and let me know what you'd like to hear about. And if you have a question, I may just answer it online. Thanks again for listening. Tune in every Wednesday and Friday morning for a brand new episode of the Adoption Roadmap podcast. Until next time, bye-bye.